Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Friday, the 5th of January. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Chris Jack. How's it going, Chris?
Not too bad, not too bad. How's things yourself? How's things your end?
Yeah, not too bad. I've got my back is. I think I've had sciatica in the past, and I had to go to the toilet last night. Had to crawl from my bed to the bathroom, which wasn't ideal. So the missus says I was like the human centipede for people that have seen that that movie. Then you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, not the best. But I will soldier on. No Rangers game, of course, to look forward to the weekend, folks. Rangers about to head off to the winter training camp next week over to Spain, to La Manga. They will take on Hertha Berlin. Joshua will be over there for us, so there'll be plenty of Rangers content to come your way, and there is still plenty of Rangers topics to discuss. We'll get stuck into those shortly. Just a quick word though for our podcast sponsors, the MPH Group. If you're looking for some home improvement, folks, or a new winter boiler, they've got a promotion on just now, then these are the guys to call. The all-important links are in the description below, so do go give them a bell if that is something you are thinking of. Right, Chris, we spoke yesterday at length about Rangers' statement following the meeting with the SFA after the decision not to award a handball in the recent Old Firm game. Now, the SFA have responded with a statement of their own, going against much of what Rangers say. I'll read you what it says, folks, and then we'll discuss it. It says the Scottish FA is disappointed by contents of the most recent statement issued by Rangers in relation to a match incident during the club's recent Premiership fixture against Celtic. Chief Executive James Bisgrove and Director of Football Operations Craig Robertson attended a private briefing with the Head of Referee Operations Crawford Allen to review the incident in question, including the use of matchday audio. We understood from the Chief Executive that the meeting had been constructive and informative and conducted amicably. This does not appear to be reflected in the club's statement. During the meeting, it was pointed out that the incident in question was a subjective handball and that the VAR did not deem it a sufficiently clear and obvious error to refer to an on-field review. Furthermore, the offside would not have been mentioned at the time, as it was not part of the VAR decision-making on the handball. It was highlighted within Clydesdale House that had the VAR considered the incident to be a handball offence and asked the referee to carry out an on-field review. The attacking phase of play would have been checked and the offside would have been identified. The supplementary information was relayed to broadcasters in-game, and we are reviewing the process of information dissemination to avoid any perceived ambiguity in future. There was an overall consensus that the incident could not have led to a penalty kick being awarded in any event, and that there was no impact on the final outcome of the match. Scotland's VAR protocol is in many ways modelled on the PGMOL system, and we are in regular dialogue with our colleagues in England on knowledge sharing and improvements. VAR has been operational in Scotland for just over a year, while it has been operational in England for more than 4. Since this summer, we have ensured that key match incidents are reviewed and shared with all clubs after every round of 11 Premiership fixtures, including the use of audio. We will continue to do this along with KMI being shared with the independent review panel for their consideration and opinion. And they also had a go with Heart and Hand as well, which I thought was offside. It said the statement concluded, finally, we note posts from a recent official media partner of the club's detailing requests from the private meeting that were immediately rejected. We would ask that the club's representatives show greater responsibility in such matters, especially in the context of recent incidents in European football that have compromised the safety of match officials and led to widespread condemnation. Don't think there's any need for that last statement, Chris. I've got to say, there's alarm bells ringing for me in that statement as well about the it's subjective and they didn't deem it a handball, and which for me is ludicrous. I know they're doubling down and supporting their man, and Willie Collum, the The famous Lemmy sketch, don't back down, double down, springs to mind here. Unlike the PGMOL in England, they're not afraid to put their hands up when they make mistakes and release the audio. I don't think we're getting any of that. I think it spoke volumes that the Rangers statement said they've heard the audio and they said release the audio to the public. I think it tells us everything we need to know that that is not forthcoming from the governing body. What do you make of this response to Rangers' statement?
I think if we take the last point first, Derek, and also the part right at the end about asking the club representatives to show greater responsibility, I don't think that part was needed at all. The request from Rangers for Willie Collum not to referee their games, I don't think that was the right move to make. I think the club should have stuck to questioning and talking about the process rather than the personalities. As we said yesterday, I think the standard of refereeing in Scotland and in general as a whole can be better, and Willie Collum certainly falls into that. I don't think it was the right thing for Rangers to do to request that he doesn't take charge of any of their matches. Incidentally, that's not the first time that clubs have made such requests. So people who are getting their undergarments in a twist over that particular request have short memories, and people who are saying that Rangers are putting undue pressure on referees and are questioning the integrity of referees also have very short memories, because it happens on a yearly basis at a certain meeting just across the city. So I think that last point from the SFA, I don't think there's any need for that. They're also referencing some of the incidents that I've seen, and in the European game, we also saw the incident a couple of weeks ago in Turkey. That's a million miles away from where Rangers are at right now. Rangers are questioning the process, are questioning how a certain situation was played out. And again, as we said yesterday morning, they're quite entitled to ask questions about the process, how decisions were reached, and importantly, how decisions were being relayed. And the line in the statement from the SFA, the supplementary information was relayed to broadcasters in-game, and we are reviewing the process of information dissemination to avoid any perceived ambiguity in the future. That cuts to the heart of what Rangers' point was. One, Willie Collum made the wrong decision, but two, it was then the cover-up and how they tried to find a backdoor out of it. If Sima had not stepped just the wrong side of the defender, and that frame of offside had not been available, where would the SFA have gone from there? The SFA got lucky, the fact that they could wind the tape back a few more seconds, find that offside call, and then say, well, that's the reason. The reason the penalty wasn't given is because Willie Collum made a mistake, and rather than Willie and the VAR team and then subsequently the SFA, rather than them just holding their hands up and saying, actually, that was a wrong call, Willie made a mistake, these things happen, human error, apologise, we'll learn from it, all the usual stuff. They've then tried to backtrack and try to find a set of circumstances to suit what actually played out. What played out was the on-field referee made a mistake because he didn't award a corner and didn't award a penalty, and the VAR then made a mistake because he didn't award the penalty. The offside is just a get-out clause for them, and that's what Rangers have been trying to establish. That's what Rangers are trying to get to the heart of, and anything round about that is just noise and trying to muddy the waters.
Yeah. The point is, Willie Collum didn't think that the slap on the ball was a handball, which tells me that he shouldn't be officiating at that level and that he needs proper training. So, listen, Rangers aren't the only club not happy about these decisions. I know Hearts are. Stephen Naismith is unhappy as well. They had a yellow card rescinded in their game against Livingston. Alan Forrest was brought down in the penalty area, booked for simulation. It's been rectified. So it's not, Rangers aren't the only club to bring this up. And just last night as well, there's a comment that's come in from Francis just on VAR in general, Chris. VAR has a lot to answer for. It's ruined the game. It's made it harder, not easier. That sending off, incidentally, I don't know if you've seen it, the Everton Crystal Palace game last night is just absolutely farcical. For me, it's when VR was introduced, I remember it was introduced in England initially. It was at one of the first games, and you're thinking to yourself, it's going to take away those grey areas of doubt, and people won't be discussing contentious decisions in the pub and what have you. But it's done the opposite. We're now sending players off for absolutely nothing. Offside calls are minute detail. The handball rules, what have you, is just a grey area now in the game. It just seems to be taken away from the game. You can't celebrate goals anymore properly. Chris, VR in general for you, did you see the incident last night, and what do you think the future is for it?
The one last night was an absolute shocker, but I think it plays into a lot of the problems with VR. It's not, for me anyway, it's not the technology that's the problem. Having the screens, having the extra eyes on it, that's not the problem. It's the way that the rules are being interpreted. People being nitpicking for the sake of it, trying to find things. That one last night, as soon as and we've seen this a number of times over the years in England, I've seen it a number of times, even just this season in Scotland. As soon as the referee gets called over, you just know what the decision is going to be, because he thinks, oh, shoot, I've missed something there. I've made a mistake. I better just go and rectify it. Referees, there's a game, I can't remember, one of the Rangers games a couple of weeks ago, and we got talking about this in the press room afterwards. In fact, it might have been the John Lundstrom one, because a guy got booked for that. And it's the referee not willing to make the proper decision because he knows there's a get out clause for him. So rather than just saying, that's a red card offence, I'm going to send him off, it's easier for them just to book the player and then get a word in there. By the way, you might want to go and have a look at that. And as soon as they go over, you know exactly what's going to happen. How many times have we seen the referee actually stick with the initial decision? Because as soon as somebody else who has seen it from various different angles and seen the slow-mos and seen the stills, as soon as they've had to look at it, the referee thinks, I've missed something, I've made a mistake here. And it shouldn't be there to re-referee games. It shouldn't be there to give referees a get out and to give them an easy pass. They're not making proper decisions from what they're actually seeing, because they know, well, there's this backup and it'll be fine, and we'll get there in the end. Having the technology, I think that is the point that Philippe Clement was trying to make a few weeks ago. It should make the game fairer and more honest, because you should get a proper look at everything. But that's not the case when games are being re-refereed on the spot. The referee should still be controlling the game. It's his decision, and the VAR should be there as a backup. And that has flipped the wrong way around about. VAR is now basically running games at times, and referees are taking the easy way out. I don't think the technology and having the technology is the problem. It's easy to say VAR's ruin football. Referees and decision makers and lawmakers are ruining football, because they're going into the rules and they're nitpicking. They're looking for things that just aren't there. The Calvert-Lewin one last night was never a red card in a million years, but as soon as you slow it down and you look at the still, and you're almost trying to find a way to justify it because it's come up on the screen. So I think rather than saying scrap VAR and let's just go back to the way it was, it's a proper conversation is needed about the way the technology is actually being used and the way the rules are being implemented. And I think Rangers would back up that point of view. I think they would be at the forefront as one of the biggest clubs. They would be at the forefront of that push for change. But as we've seen in social media over the last few days, we know how these things are being framed. There's Rangers moaning again. It's Rangers against everyone else. And you mentioned the Hearts one there, Derek. Hearts should be shouting and screaming about that decision. So many other clubs. We've seen fans of other clubs saying, "Oh, what about this one? What about that one?" Well, it's up to the clubs to actually put their head above the parapet and try and force change. Everything is framed as Rangers against the SPFL. Well, Rangers are quite entitled their points against the SPFL. This time it's Rangers against the SFA. Again, the club are quite entitled to make their points, but they never get any backing, and it's Rangers that are seen as the bad guys. So ultimately, Scottish football gets the Scottish football that it deserves. And if clubs and managers and fans are happy to accept the level of executive that we've got at the SPFL, if they're happy to accept the level of refereeing that we're being served up, fair play to them. But don't come moaning when things then go against us, because there has to be a collective push for change. But I say Scottish football doesn't do collective, unfortunately.
No, it certainly does not. Lots of comments coming in with regards to it. Point here, we mentioned the other day there, we need full-time refs and continuous training professional referees for a professional sport. Totally agree. Alone saying that, I mean, we've seen the referees are professional down south and they're still making glaring errors like that we witnessed last night. But yeah, certainly in the top flight, our match officials should not be treating big games as a hobby. It has to be that their sole focus in life is being better as a referee. And I think the whole officiating in Scotland needs overhaul because it is not good enough at this point in time. There's a point that came in as well from Henry Smith. He says the future for VAR should be introduced like the way rugby is on screen. Then the fans can see it and explain why. Yeah, that's a big thing for me as well. The supporters don't know what's going on. So I think something like that, I think that the referees need to be mic'd up as well. Whether we see that at any time in the future, I have my doubts. But yeah, so that was the SFA's response, folks, to Rangers' statement on their VAR request. As time of recording, we are still awaiting that VAR audio. I reckon that wait might continue to go on for some time. Right, let's move on to some transfer news. Chris, not a lot to discuss. There have been some players that have been linked with the club. There will be a host of players over the course of the month. One player that has been linked with a move away from the club is Sam Lammers. According to the Newcastle Chronicle, Sunderland, of all teams, have been mooted as a potential destination for the Rangers player. He's been an absolute flop since signing from Atalanta in the summer. But according to the Newcastle Chronicle, Sunderland have been mentioned as a potential destination for him. I think it would be a loan deal initially. I think Michael Beale, don't think many fans that he's in the good books, Chris, but he can. If he takes Sam Lammers to Sunderland, then that might go some way to changing the mood somewhat. He has to depart Rangers. I think there's no question about it. It's not going to work for him at Ibrox, but Sunderland as a destination, could you see that coming?
If it's a £2 million loan fee and a £2 million option to buy in the summer, then I might just start to forgive Michael Beale for signing Sam Lammers in the first place. Sorry, I think it's obvious that Lammers is not going to have a long-term. He's not going to have a long-term future at Rangers. He's certainly not going to be part of the plans next season. He shouldn't be part of the plans for the second half of the season because Rangers could do so much better. He's not contributed anywhere near enough. He's not proven anywhere near value for money. I just don't see what Michael Beale thought he was going to bring to the side. For all the talk in the summer about what this guy was bringing and how he would fit into the side, build a forward line round about this number 10. It's just not been there. It's just not been there at all. So I think Lammers he probably sums up the worst of the Rangers recruitment in the summer. He's certainly someone that the club should be looking to offload. And if Sunderland fancy him, if any other Championship teams fancy him, or there's any clubs on the continent fancy him, then I don't think Rangers would be that difficult to deal with because that portion of wages out at the budget can be used a whole lot more effectively. So if Michael Beale fancies him for another crack, then fair play. Off you go, Sam. I certainly don't wish him ill will or anything. Every time I've dealt with him and spoken to him, he's always been a nice big guy. But being a nice big guy doesn't make you a Rangers number 10. And a Rangers number 10 he is not.
No, absolutely not. He is one I'd imagine will be leaving before the end of the transfer window. Just off the back of that, Positive Vibes gets in touch saying, can we not sign Van Veen? Lammers and Dessers can go for me. I'm not entirely sure if we mentioned this yesterday, but Kevin Van Veen was being interviewed in his native Holland. He's been told he can leave Groningen. But they want a permanent deal. They want some money back because they paid Motherwell £500,000 for him in the summer, so not a loan deal. Van Veen said on Rangers, he says, even though I rejected them in the summer, there is still interest, but there are more clubs that find a striker who scored 29 goals last season interesting. I can contact clubs in the entire Scottish League directly, but they all want to loan me while Groningen prefers to sell. It is difficult for many Scottish clubs to come close to what Groningen paid for me in terms of a transfer fee, and that is a problem. I thought very carefully about my move and the consequences last summer. I don't want to be a failure. In Scotland, I'm still a hero. I can't even go shopping normally. I also want to show Groningen who I am. If that is ultimately not possible, life goes on. If an opportunity comes along that is good for the club and for myself, we have to act, but we are still a long way away from that. I know people would like to see Kevin Van Veen at Rangers. I believe it's our understanding, Chris, that Rangers are not interested in the former Motherwell striker. But is that a player that Rangers should be looking to bring in? In terms of fee, I can't imagine Rangers, if they were interested, would be looking to pay $500,000. Is he worth that? Is this just Kevin Van Veen just trying to bump his guns, trying to force a way out of Groningen?
I would love to know where he's shopping if he can't go shopping without being mobbed. I'm not convinced that's the case. Certainly from being mobbed by Rangers fans, I dare say Motherwell fans will still hold him in high regard, and as well they should, because he had a remarkable season for them last year. It was also the one that was linked in the summer. I could just about see the value in it in the summer at the fee of that £500,000 mark or so. If Rangers had done it in the summer, then I could have got on board with it. They also decided to spend a lot more money than that on different players. I think he's someone who we know can score goals at a Scottish level, but there's a guy at Hearts that I think that the fans would be more. He's also going to cost a bit more, but I think Shankland would be more of an appetising one for the support. I don't see Van Veen being the type of guy that Rangers fans are going to get really excited about. And I think now that the manager has come in, he's had a chance to assess the squad. He'll know exactly what he wants. Also, Niels Coppin has come in and has started. We've seen that those relationships pay off already with Fabio Silva coming in. If you're thinking a guy who went for $500,000 on loan potentially, or paying that fee to give Groningen their money back, and you're now getting a £35 million rated Portuguese youth internationalist on loan, they are very different markets to be shopping in. I think if Rangers can shop in the Fabio Silva market more often than the Kevin Van Veen market, then that's going to stand them in better stead in terms of domestic success and whatever they can do in the Europa League. So right now, Van Veen, not for me. I think that ship has probably sailed. Potentially worth a punt in the summer, but right now I think Rangers should be looking at different targets and shopping in a different market.
Yes, and just on Fabio Silva, incidentally, good to see him making his debut against Kilmarnock a few days ago. With Abdallah Sima heading out to the African Cup of Nations, Chris, where do you see his position being? I know he came on for Cyril Dessers in that win over Kilmarnock, but with Sima heading out, could he be a Sima replacement, perhaps, do you think?
I think he can be. He also can be effective off that side. I think the manager was asked about it last week. I can't remember ahead of which game. Might even have been the final game, the Celtic game. Sorry. And he basically hinted, look, this guy's coming in as number 9. He knows that he's really short of options through the middle. Also, Big Dessers is the only man there at present, given Kamar's injury issues at present. So I think it's more likely that we'll see Silva as the number 9, but the Sima Senegal call up does cause a problem. I know something we spoke about last week, and we sent absolutely no regards to Senegal whatsoever. I hope their defence of the AFCON is a short-lived affair, because Rangers really can't be doing without Sima for a long period of time. If you think that Silva is going to play through the middle, who then fills in that wide left, you're then looking at Matondo, who went through a small purple patch at the start of the season, hasn't really shown an awful lot since he's come back from injury. Is certainly not in the same class, and is certainly not as effective as Sima. So Rangers do still have issues, and that's why I think if they could get if they can get someone or if they can get someone who can play wide right and wide left and through the middle if they fancied it, and not that we're asking for much, that would really benefit the squad in the second half of the season. That forward line does still need a bit of work done on it. I think the best that Rangers can hope for in January, just get the right deals done to try and kind of get through the second half of the season.
Yeah, incidentally, one player who has been linked is the Vitesse winger, Miljan Manhoef, and Dutch football expert Melvin Dupper has wrote a Skype report on him for us on the website, folks, so you can go and check that out. It seems like an exciting talent. I'm also going to be speaking to a Vitesse podcaster a little later on at some point as well to get a bit of an insight into him, so want to keep an eye out for. Lots of questions, points coming in. Maka with the point here, Chris, he says that if Silva plays off the left, where does that leave Matondo? Whether he plays off the left or not, I think Rabbi Matondo, since he's come back from injury, it hasn't looked quite as sharp as what he did at the start of the season. I think he is one of the players that will surely benefit from that winter training camp in Spain. However, could he be a player that might head out the door this month, do you reckon?
I remain to be convinced that Matondo is a long-term part of a successful Rangers side. Albert wrote him off in his first season. I know he then went through that wee spell at the start of that season, scored a couple of goals, looked a bit more effective, and people were worrying that they might have to start deleting tweets and taking back comments on Rabbi Matondo. But I think he's still got a lot to prove to show that he can be a mainstay in a successful Rangers side. I don't think he's had an awful lot of game time since coming back, but I think what we have seen is not really been that great. I think there's still questions over his finishing. I think there's still questions over his decision making. It's probably the biggest one. So I think there's definitely areas where he has to improve, and it then comes down to whether the manager feels he's got the time to get that level of improvement out of Matondo, or whether he's one of the ones like you try and cut him loose, you try and get a couple of £1 million back in the door for him, and you then reuse that fee, reuse that wages on a better option. I wouldn't be surprised if Matondo is one of the ones that falls off from this squad come the end of the season. And just on Manhoef, actually, I spoke to someone close to him, his camp last week. Very, very tight-lipped on all matters Rangers, but it did say that there's a bit of interest and quite a lot of interest in him. They're keeping their options open at present. So I think if Rangers are to do something on him and they do get him in the door, they will have fended off quite a bit of competition, because he certainly looks like an exciting prospect.
Yeah, he's attracting a bit of attention, there's no doubt about it. We'll finish up this point from Ross, just on the striking department. It's clearly an area that Rangers need to strengthen in. He says that aside from Pete Morelos 2019, when was the last time we had a clinical striker? We seem to always sign powder puff strikers. Trying to think off the top of my head, and I know Jermaine Defoe was pretty clinical in terms of his minutes and goals ratio, Chris. That side, I think we're going back to even if you look at the lower leagues, John Daly perhaps, and then perhaps we're looking at Kenny Miller maybe as the last player you could hang your hat on to get you goals.
It probably depends how you're defining clinical. I think Defoe certainly falls into that category. He was an excellent finisher, and he was someone that if you gave him a chance, then he would put it away. I think Kamal Roof probably falls into that category as well. It's just that we don't see him often enough to find out how many numbers he can rack up. I know Tolak is someone who's been mentioned there. Again, he had different flaws and different strengths to his game. But the last proper clinical one, I think would have been Jermaine Defoe. Jelavic, obviously, Big Boydie, obviously, is the one that jumps out. But I think it's definitely a market that Rangers have to do some business in. I think Fabio Silva's scoring record doesn't scream out clinical. He's clearly a talented boy. Clearly got a lot of positives to his game. Right now, he doesn't look like a 25 goal a season striker. If he fancies proving me wrong in the second half of the season, that'd be smashing. But I think he doesn't look like the type of guy who's going to get that at that level of goal. And it's something that Rangers haven't really had over the years. Even Alfredo at his best, there was a lot of times we went through wee spells, and you think he's going to go and score 30 goals this season, and it just never quite materialised. The numbers didn't always follow and didn't always stack up. So it is something that Rangers do have to address. I know it's a point we've both been banging the drum on for quite some time. The need for another striker to come in during the window. And I think if they can get that guy in, it would certainly boost our chances of having a successful second half of the campaign.
Yeah, Rick says Tav is a clinical right back. Does that count? I think it tells you everything you need to know that he is often been Rangers' most attacking outlet. So hopefully it's an area of the pitch that Rangers will rectify this month. Right, folks, I think we'll wrap up there. Huge thanks to everyone for interacting with the show as ever. As I mentioned, there's a scout report on the website on Millie and Manhoof. Go and check it out. On the YouTube channel as well. Me and Chris, for the members, we did a video on the news yesterday that there will be a new singing section in the Copeland front from next season. So we gave a reaction to that. As I mentioned, I will be speaking to a Vitesse podcaster a little bit later on. So that is something to keep an eye out as well. And yeah, plenty coming your way over the course of the weekend. So keep your eyes peeled. Thank you as ever for all your support. Huge thanks to Chris as well. And we'll speak to you Monday now. So enjoy your weekend. Bye for now.